and there remained our teaching alone, which has prevailed over all, and which is acknowledged to be superior to all in dignity and temperance, and in divine and philosophical doctrines. So that none of them now ventures to affix a base calumny upon our faith, or any such slander as our ancient enemies formerly delighted to utter. Nevertheless, in those times the truth again called forth many champions who fought in its defense against the godless heresies, refuting them not only with oral, but also with written arguments. Chapter 8. Ecclesiastical Writers. Among these Hegesippus was well known. We have already quoted his words a number of times, relating events which happened in the time of the Apostles according to his account. He records in 5 books the true tradition of apostolic doctrine in a most simple style, and he indicates the time in which he flourished when he writes as follows concerning those that first set up idols: "To whom they erected cenotaphs and temples, as is done to the present day; among whom is also Antinous, a slave of the Emperor Adrian, in whose honor are celebrated also the Antinoian games, which are instituted in our day. For he (i.e. Adrian) also founded a city named after Antinoes, and appointed prophets." At the same time also Justin, a genuine lover of the true philosophy, was still continuing to busy himself with Greek literature. He indicates this time in the apology which he addressed to Antonine, where he writes as follows: "We do not think it out of place to mention here Antinoes also, who lived in our day, and whom all were driven by fear to worship as a god, although they knew who he was and whence he came." The same writer, speaking of the Jewish war which took place at that time, adds the following: "For in the late Jewish war Bar-Kocheba, the leader of the Jewish rebellion, commanded that Christians alone should be visited with terrible punishments unless they would deny and blaspheme Jesus Christ." And in the same work he shows that his conversion from Greek philosophy to Christianity was not without reason, but that it was the result of deliberation on his part. His words are as follows: "For I myself, while I was delighted with the doctrines of Plato, and heard the Christians slandered, and saw that they were afraid neither of death nor of anything else ordinarily looked upon as terrible, concluded that it was impossible that they could be living in wickedness and pleasure. For what pleasure-loving or intemperate man, or what man that counts it good to feast on human flesh, could welcome death that he might be deprived of his enjoyments, and would not rather strive to continue permanently his present life, and to escape the notice of the rulers, instead of giving himself up to be put to death?" The same writer, moreover, relates that Adrian having received from Cyrenius Granianus, a most distinguished governor, a letter in behalf of the Christians, in which he stated that it was not just to slay the Christians without a regular accusation and trial, merely for the sake of gratifying the outcries of the populace, sent a rescript to Minucius Fundanus, proconsul of Asia, commanding him to condemn no one without an indictment and a well-grounded accusation. And he gives a copy of the epistle, preserving the original Latin in which it was written, and prefacing it with the following words: "Although from the epistle of the greatest and most illustrious Emperor Adrian, your father, we have good ground to demand that you order judgment to be given as we have desired, yet we have asked this not because it was ordered by Adrian, but rather because we know that what we ask is just. And we have subjoined the copy of Adrian's epistle that you may know that we are speaking the truth in this matter also, and this is the copy." After these words the author referred to gives the rescript in Latin, which we have translated into Greek as accurately as we could. It reads as follows: Chapter 9. The Epistle of Adrian, decreeing that we should not be punished without a trial. To Minucius Fundanus, I have received an epistle, written to me by Cyrenius Granianus, a most illustrious man, whom you have succeeded. It does not seem right to me that the matter should be passed by without examination, lest the men be harassed and opportunity be given to the informers for practicing villainy. If therefore the inhabitants of the province can clearly sustain this petition against the Christians so as to give answer in a court of law, let them pursue this course alone, but let them not have resort to men's petitions and outcries. For it is far more proper, if anyone wishes to make an accusation, that you should examine into it. If anyone therefore accuses them and shows that they are doing anything contrary to the laws, do you pass judgment according to the heinousness of the crime. But by Hercules, if any one bring an accusation through mere calumny, decide in regard to his criminality, and see to it that you inflict punishment. Such are the contents of Adrian's Rescript. Chapter 10. The Bishops of Rome and of Alexandria during the reign of Antoninus. Adrian having died after a reign of 21 years, was succeeded in the government of the Romans by Antoninus, called the Pious. In the first year of his reign Telesphorus died in the 11th year of his episcopate, and Hyginus became bishop of Rome. Irenaeus records that Telesphorus' death was made glorious by martyrdom, and in the same connection he states that in the time of the above-mentioned Roman bishop Hyginus, Valentinus, the founder of a sect of his own, and Surdon, the author of Marcion's error, were both well known at Rome. He writes as follows. Chapter 11. The Heresiarchs of that age. For Valentinus came to Rome under Hyginus, flourished under Pius, and remained until Anicetus. Surdon also, Marcion's predecessor, entered the church in the time of Hyginus, the 9th bishop, and made confession, and continued in this way, now teaching in secret, now making confession again, and now denounced for corrupt doctrine and withdrawing from the assembly of the brethren. These words are found in the 3rd book of the work Against Heresies. And again in the 1st book he speaks as follows concerning Surdon. A certain Surdon, who had taken his system from the followers of Simon, and had come to Rome under Hyginus, the 9th in the episcopal succession from the apostles, taught that the God proclaimed by the law and prophets was not the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. For the former was known, but the latter unknown; and the former was just, but the latter good. Marcion of Pontus succeeded Surdon and developed his doctrine, uttering shameless blasphemies. The same Irenaeus unfolds with the greatest vigor the unfathomable abyss of Valentinus's errors in regard to matter, and reveals his wickedness, secret and hidden like a serpent lurking in its nest. And in addition to these men he says that there was also another that lived in that age, Marcus by name, who was remarkably skilled in magic arts. And he describes also their unholy initiations and their abominable mysteries in the following words. For some of them prepare a nuptial couch and perform a mystic rite with certain forms of expression addressed to those who are being initiated. And they say that it is a spiritual marriage which is celebrated by them, after the likenesses of the marriages above. But others lead them to water, and while they baptize them they repeat the following words: Into the name of the unknown Father of the universe, into truth, the mother of all things, into the one that descended upon Jesus. Others repeat Hebrew names in order the better to confound those who are being initiated. But Hyginus, having died at the close of the 4th year of his episcopate, Pius succeeded him in the government of the Church of Rome. In Alexandria Marcus was appointed pastor, after Eumenes had filled the office 13 years in all. And Marcus having died and holding office 10 years was succeeded by Saladion in the government of the Church of Alexandria. And in Rome Pius died in the 15th year of his episcopate, and Anicetus assumed the leadership of the Christians there. Hegesippus records that he himself was in Rome at this time, and that he remained there until the episcopate of Eleutherus. But Justin was especially prominent in those days. In the guise of a philosopher he preached the divine word, and contended for the faith in his writings. He wrote also a work against Marcion, in which he states that the latter was alive at the time he wrote. He speaks as follows: And there is a certain Marcion of Pontus, who is even now still teaching his followers to think that there is some other God greater than the Creator. And by the aid of the demons he has persuaded many of every race of men to utter blasphemy, and to deny that the Maker of this universe is the Father of Christ, and to confess that some other, greater than he, was the Creator. and all who followed them are, as we have said, called Christians, just as the name of philosophy is given to philosophers, although they may have no doctrines in common. To this he adds, "And we have also written a work against all the heresies that have existed, which we will give you if you wish to read it." But this same Justin contended most successfully against the Greeks, and addressed discourses containing an apology for our faith to the Emperor Antoninus, called Pius, and to the Roman Senate; for he lived at Rome. But who and whence he was he shows in his apology in the following words. Chapter 12. The Apology of Justin addressed to Antoninus. To the Emperor Titus Aelius Adrian Antoninus Pius Caesar Augustus, and to Verissimus his son, the philosopher, and to Lucius the philosopher, own son of Caesar and adopted son of Pius, a lover of learning, and to the sacred senate and to the whole Roman people, I, Justin, son of Priscus and grandson of Bacchius, of Flavia Neapolis in Palestine, Syria, present this address and petition in behalf of those men of every nation who are unjustly hated and persecuted, I myself being one of them. And the same emperor, having learned also from other brethren in Asia of the injuries of all kinds which they were suffering from the inhabitants of the province, thought it proper to address the following ordinance to the common assembly of Asia. Chapter 13. The Epistle of Antoninus to the common assembly of Asia in regard to our doctrine. The Emperor Caesar Marcus Aurelius Antoninus Augustus, Arminius, Pontifex Maximus, for the 15th time Tribune, for the 3rd time Consul, to the common assembly of Asia, greeting. I know that the gods also take care that such persons do not escape detection, for they would much rather punish those who will not worship them than you would. But you throw them into confusion, and while you accuse them of atheism you only confirm them in the opinion which they hold. It would indeed be more desirable for them, when accused, to appear to die for their God than to live. Wherefore also they come off victorious when they give up their lives rather than yield obedience to your commands. And in regard to the earthquakes which have been and are still taking place, it is not improper to admonish you who lose heart whenever they occur, and nevertheless are accustomed to compare your conduct with theirs. They indeed become the more confident in God, while you during the whole time neglect, in apparent ignorance, the other gods and the worship of the immortal, and oppress and persecute even unto death the Christians who worship him. But in regard to these persons, many of the governors of the provinces wrote also to our most divine Father, to whom he wrote in reply that they should not trouble these people, unless it should appear that they were attempting something affecting the Roman government. And to me also many have sent communications concerning these men, but I have replied to them in the same way that my father did. But if anyone still persists in bringing accusations against any of these people as such, the person who is accused shall be acquitted of the charge, even if it appear that he is one of them, but the accuser shall be punished. Published in Ephesus, in the common assembly of Asia. To these things Melito, bishop of the church of Sardis, and a man well known at that time, is a witness, as is clear from his words in the apology which he addressed to the Emperor Verus in behalf of our doctrine.